Most men find out their life has been taken apart when a lawyer calls, or a bank card gets declined, or a stranger at a motel front desk says a name they should not know. I found out when a plumber crawled behind my laundry room wall and asked me why there was a woman crying inside my house. By the time I understood the question, my name was already on a storage lease, a prepaid card, and a missing person file I had never seen. My name is Owen Whitaker. I am 53 years old. I live in a small brick house in German Village, Columbus, Ohio. The kind of house with old floors, narrow stairs, and enough drafts in the winter to make you question every life decision you have ever made. I manage inventory for a medical supply company. I volunteer twice a month. And until 13 days ago, I believed my marriage was ordinary in the best possible way. We will get to the hidden room, the woman who was not really missing, and the mistake my wife made because she thought knowing my habits meant knowing my soul. But before we do, subscribe to Dad's Cold Justice, hit the like button, and comment where you are listening from and what time it is where you live. A subscribe costs you nothing, but it helps this channel more than you know. Now listen closely, because the first lie sounded exactly like a crying woman. My wife was named Corinne Whitaker, married 16 years, together for 19. Corinne liked white sweaters, lemon tea, old courthouse documentaries, and handwriting thank you cards for people she privately disliked. That should have told me something. But love has a way of turning warning signs into personality quirks. She took her tea with honey, never sugar. She kept our spice jars alphabetized. She knew when our car insurance renewed, when my dental cleaning was due, and how many minutes it took me to fall asleep after the 11 o'clock news. This started on a rainy Monday in March, which in Ohio is more of a gray punishment with potholes than a month. Corinne was in Erie visiting her sister Maureen, about 2 hours north of Columbus if traffic behaves. I was home alone, eating reheated chili from the container and watching basketball too loud, because this is how men celebrate temporary freedom. Around 8:30 that night, the laundry room drain started gurgling. Not a small gurgle, not the kind you ignore because you are 53 and tired and willing to gamble against plumbing. This was a wet, choking sound, followed by water creeping out from under the washer, like the house had decided to confess something. I called the first emergency plumber with decent reviews. A man named Sal DeMarco showed up 35 minutes later with a flashlight, a tool bag, and the tired eyes of someone who has seen what people do to their pipes. "Give me half an hour." "Mr. Whitaker," Sal said, heading down the back stairs. I gave him half an hour. I made coffee. I did not need. Then my phone buzzed with a text from the man who was literally inside my laundry room. "Sir, there is a locked panel behind your storage cabinet. Who is crying in there?" I stared at the words for a moment. "Because your brain has a mercy setting. It refuses certain sentences on the first pass." I typed back, "Sol, we don't have a locked panel back there." 3 dots appeared. Then, "Sir, I hear a woman crying. There are 3 bolts on the outside. 3 bolts on the outside. I need you to sit with that detail, because I did not understand it fast enough. Locks on the inside mean privacy. Locks on the outside mean control. They do not protect a person from the world. They protect the world from finding a person." I was down the stairs so fast I nearly missed the last step. Sal was standing beside the tall maple storage cabinet Corinne had insisted we keep, even after I offered to replace it twice. The cabinet had been pulled forward just enough to show a narrow plywood panel painted the same dull cream as the wall. If it was flush, you would never notice it. I had done laundry in that room for 16 years and never seen it. 3 sliding bolts, 2 screw eyes, 1 cheap padlock, and from behind it came a thin, broken sob. "Call 911, I told Sal. He was already doing it. 2 patrol officers arrived first, then a third. I stood in my own house with bare feet in cold water while they cut the padlock and pulled the bolts back. I kept calling Corinne. No answer. I texted, "Call me now. Something is happening." No answer. I told myself she was having dinner with Maureen. I told myself that because the alternative had no shape yet, the panel opened into a narrow storage cavity between the laundry room and the old foundation wall. It was empty, swept clean, no bedding, no chains, no human being, just concrete floor, a camping speaker on an overturned paint bucket, and a prepaid phone plugged into a power bank. The crying was a recording, looping through the speaker, still playing as Officer Dana Frost reached for the phone with a gloved hand. Someone triggered this recently, she said, maybe within the last hour. While Sal was down here, I said, looks that way. Stay with me here. Because this is the moment when my house stopped being a house and became a stage. Someone knew a plumber was in my laundry room. Someone knew he would move that cabinet to reach the drain access. Someone waited until he was close enough to hear the recording and then triggered it from somewhere else. The crying was not meant to fool the police. It was meant to make sure the police came. That is not a prank. That is choreography. The storage unit showed up 46 hours later. I do not know exactly when I stopped being the homeowner and became the man who needed explaining, but it happened softly. 1 minute, Officer Frost is saying they are just trying to understand the scene. The next, a detective named Grace Holloway is sitting across from me at my kitchen table asking if I had ever rented a unit off Sawmill Road near Dublin. I had not, except the paperwork said I had. Unit 219, paid in cash, rented under my full legal name, Owen Patrick Whitaker. When they opened it, they found a gray duffel bag, 2 women's blouses, a disposable caméra, a prepaid debit card linked to an online account in my name, and a framed photograph of a woman I had never met. She was maybe 38, dark blonde hair, a tired smile, the kind of face you pass at a grocery store and forget before you reach the parking lot. Detective Holloway watched me as she slid the photo across the table. Her name is Clara Voss, she said. She was reported missing 9 days ago from Westerville. Do you know her? No, I said. I have never seen that woman in my life. That was true. Completely true. But truth is surprisingly weak when someone has been patient enough to build a better-looking lie. Here is the part I did not tell Detective Holloway that night. After she left, I went upstairs to our bedroom and stood in front of Corinne's little white bookshelf. She had a habit of keeping things inside books. Receipts, recipes, old appointment cards. I do not know what made me look. Maybe instinct. Maybe fear. Maybe after 16 years your hands move toward the place your mind is not ready to name. Inside a church cookbook from St. Devon, Mary's, tucked behind a page for lemon pound cake, was the same photograph of Clara Voss. Not a similar photo. The same photo, printed on glossy paper and trimmed crookedly at the edge. I sat on the bed holding it while rain clicked against the windows and thought about every ordinary morning Corinne had sat beside me drinking tea. Honey, not sugar. While this woman's face waited 3 feet from my pillow. How long had Clara Voss been in that book? How long had Corinne been folding me into a crime I did not know existed? At 53, I thought the worst thing a man could discover was that his wife did not love him anymore. I was wrong. The worst thing is discovering she knew you so well she could counterfeit your entire life. If you are still listening, hit that like button and subscribe to Dad's Cold Justice. Stories like this take time, and your support tells us to keep going. Now here is something nobody warns you about being framed by the person who makes your coffee. The pain is not the betrayal. The pain is realizing how much effort they were willing to spend on your ruin. Corinne came home from Erie the next afternoon. She had ignored my calls for 4 hours, then called back crying, saying Maureen's house had terrible reception and her phone had been on silent in a guest room. When she walked through our front door, worry looked painted perfectly on her face. Her coat was damp, her eyes were red, and she dropped her bag before wrapping both arms around me. Owen, what happened? Are you hurt? For about 20 minutes. God help me. I wanted to believe her. Not because she was convincing, though she was. I wanted to believe her because the alternative meant my entire adult life had been a room with no windows. She cried when I showed her the hidden panel. She covered her mouth when I told her about the recording. Then she asked the first question that should have frozen my blood. Did they take your laptop too? I said no. She exhaled so softly most men would have missed it. I did not miss it. The next day, Detective Holloway came back with questions about the storage unit. Corinne sat beside me at the kitchen table, one hand resting on my knee like a loyal wife in a courtroom drama. Holloway explained the lease, the cash payments, the prepaid card, Clara's missing person report. I watched Corinne's face instead of the detective's. For half a second, something in her went perfectly blank. Not surprised. Not scared. Blank. Then the tears arrived. "Someone is doing this to Owen," she said. "My husband would never be involved in anything like that," Holloway asked. "How can you be sure?" "Because I know him," Corinne said. That answer lived in my head for the next 2 days. She did not say because he is a good man. She did not say because he would never hurt a woman. She said she knew me. That was not love. That was expertise. I called my friend Dean Mercer on Thursday morning. Dean and I had worked together years earlier before he left medical supply and became a fraud analyst for a credit union in Dayton. Dean has the personality of a smoke alarm, unpleasant but useful when the room is on fire. I told him everything. The wall, the recording, the storage unit, Clara Voss, the photograph hidden in the cookbook. He was quiet long enough that I thought the call had dropped. "Owen," he finally said. "Who handles your household accounts, Corinne?" I said, "Mostly. She is better with details." "How long?" "Since maybe the second year of the marriage." "Pull statements?" "All of them. Checking. Savings. Credit card. Retirement portal. Anything with your name on it. Go back as far as the bank lets you." I pulled 8 years. What I found did not look like crime at first. That was the genius of it. No massive withdrawals. No mysterious wire transfers to places men on television pronounce badly. Just little movements hiding inside ordinary life. $200 to a consulting company called Northline Harbor. Cash withdrawals every few months. Never more than $800. Small deposits into a digital account opened with my email and a password pattern Corinne knew. Over 8 years. It came to $74. Lou by Archer. I stared at that number at 1:17 inches the morning while the refrigerator hummed behind me and Corinne slept upstairs. $74,000 did not leave our marriage with a suitcase. It leaked out through pinholes. Carefully, quietly, patiently. The first strange transaction was 18 months after our wedding. 18 months. We were still writing thank you notes from the reception when Corinne started rehearsing my destruction. Dean drove in the next day. We spread everything across my dining room, table bank records, the storage lease, police notes, old credit reports, my phone logs, the photo from the cookbook. Dean studied the timeline the way a doctor studies an X-ray, before saying the thing that changes your life. "Where was your phone the night before the storage lease was signed?" he asked. "On my nightstand," I said. "Where was Corinne?" "In bed next to me." There it was. So simple. I hated myself for not seeing it. She had taken my phone while I slept, used my saved ID scan from an insurance claim, signed the rental agreement online, created an email filter so the confirmation never appeared in my inbox. She knew my signature because she had watched me sign mortgage papers, birthday cards, donation checks, permission slips for kids. I coached at the pantry's summer drive. Then Dean asked about the plumber. "You called him that night, I did." "From your cell, yes. Pull the outgoing log." I already knew. Some part of me had known since the second Sal texted me. The call to DeMarco Emergency Plumbing had gone out from my phone at 7:44 p.m. I had been at the office at that exact time, finishing a quarterly inventory audit. My keycard entry and building camera could prove it. Corinne had placed the call before she left for Erie, or she had scheduled it through a service using my number. Either way, she had made the house invite its own witness. The gurgling drain was probably engineered too. Dean thought she might have blocked the line with a dissolvable towel or tampered with the washer hose just enough to force an emergency call. The hidden cavity had been there long before we owned the house. Old Columbus homes have odd spaces. Dead walls. Koal chute. Crawl pockets. No one mentions unless something leaks. Corinne had not built a prison. She had discovered a hiding place and taught it to accuse me. This was not rage. This was architecture. Dean looked at me across the table and said, This woman did not snap. I laughed once, which surprised both of us. No, he said. I mean it. The money, the false account, the storage lease, the phone use, the staged emergency. She has been learning you for years. She did not just know your habits. Owen, she weaponized them. I walked to the front window and looked out at the brick sidewalk, the bare sycamore branches, the neighbor's dog sniffing around a lamppost like nothing in the world had shifted. Corinne and I had walked that sidewalk 1,000 times. We had taken soup to neighbors, argued about porch lights, laughed about tourists trying to parallel park. I had been living inside a postcard while my wife measured the frame for my mugshot. That was when I decided not to confront her. Confrontation is what guilty people expect from innocent people. They expect panic. They expect begging. They expect the wounded speech in the kitchen where you ask why. And they deny. And you hand them all your evidence because you still think marriage means honesty has a seat at the table. Corinne had built her plan around the man I used to be. The man who explained himself. The man who assumed the truth would eventually sound louder than a lie. I stopped being that man on a Friday morning with cold coffee in my hand and $74. 620 missing from my life. I did not go straight to Detective Holloway. Not yet. Evidence brought by a suspect is not evidence. It is a story a suspect is telling. Corinne had made sure of that. My name was on the lease. My phone called the plumber. My money touched the prepaid card. My house had the hidden room. If I walked in waving bank statements in outrage, I would look exactly as desperate as she needed me to look. So I called my cousin Ray. Ray Whitaker is retired Columbus Fire, lives out near Grove City, and has the calm, suspicious nature of a man who spent 27 years walking into burning buildings because people insisted the smoke was probably nothing. Ray does not waste words. He makes black coffee so strong it should require a permit. I drove to his house on Saturday and told Corinne I needed air. Take your time. Honey, she said, touching my cheek. You have been through so much. The performance was almost beautiful. I say that now without bitterness. Corinne was good. That is important to admit. She was not a monster in a mask. She was a monster who understood lighting, timing, and where to put her hands when she cried. At Ray's kitchen table, I told him everything. When I finished, he stared at his coffee for a while. Who does she tell the truth to? He asked. I said, what people like that need one person who knows they are smarter than everybody else. Who is hers? I thought about it. Her cousin, Natalie Pierce, from Cincinnati. They grew up together. Talk every week. Corinne takes those calls in the sunroom with the door closed. Ray nodded. Then you do not need her to confess to you. You need her to feel safe enough to brag. I said I was not going to do anything illegal. Good. Ray said. Do not. Use it to find the real witness, not to be the evidence. That sentence mattered. A clue tells you where to dig. Evidence survives the shovel. Ray helped me install a visible security camera in the sunroom on Sunday morning. Visible is important. It covered the back door and window because I told Corinne I was nervous after the hidden room and wanted cameras around the house. She agreed immediately. In fact, she praised the idea. She even stood there while I paired it with my phone. What she did not realize was that Ray had set the system to alert me every time sound crossed a threshold. I was not planning to give that audio to a court. I was planning to know when to start digging. Then I waited. Waiting is not passive. It means letting the other person keep speaking in the language they think you do not understand. I waited through police interviews, neighbors staring too long, and Corinne making soup like a loyal wife. I noticed. Grace. I was scared. Not stupid. For 17 days. I played the role Corinne wrote for me. Tired husband. Confused suspect. Cooperative. Embarrassed. Increasingly isolated. I stopped sleeping in the bed and told her I needed the guest room because I was restless. She accepted that too quickly. She had probably expected it. Distance made me look guilty and made her look patient. Then Natalie Pierce came up from Cincinnati. It was a Thursday afternoon. Corinne told me Natalie was stopping by on her way to a client meeting. I said I would give them privacy and drove to a grocery store parking lot on South High Street. I bought a pack of gum I did not want and sat in the car with my phone face up on my knee. The sunroom alert came 22 minutes later. At first, it was nothing. Natalie complaining about a hotel. Corinne talking about a neighbor's trash cans. Someone laughing about a cousin's third engagement. I almost felt foolish. Then Corinne's voice changed. It did not get louder. It got cleaner. The softness drained out of it. "He is still looking in the wrong direction," she said. Natalie said, "You are sure Owen thinks the storage unit is the problem?" "The police think the storage unit is the problem. Everybody is staring at the thing I wanted them to stare at. And Clara, she is fine. She is in Savannah until the end of April. She has cash, a motel room, and instructions. All she has to do is stay invisible for 60 days and sound frightened if anyone calls the old number." Natalie was quiet. "Corinne, this has gotten bigger than what you told me." "It was always going to get big," Corinne said. "That is the point. Small accusations are survivable. Big ones create gravity. Once people start asking whether Owen Whitaker hid a woman in his house, they stop asking what I have been moving out of our accounts for 8 years. There it was. Not the whole confession." "Enough," Natalie whispered. "What happens to him?" Corinne sighed, and I could picture her brushing lint from her sweater. "He becomes what the paperwork says he is. That is how men like Owen lose. They keep believing character matters, after documents have already made up everyone's mind." I sat in my car with a pack of unopened gum in my hand and listened to my wife describe me as a clerical error she could arrange into prison. I did not shake. I did not cry. Something much quieter happened. The part of me that still wanted an explanation folded itself neatly and left one. I did not call Detective Holloway. I called Dean. "Savannah," I said. "Clara is in Savannah." He was silent for 1 second. Then, "Get me her full name again." Clara Voss had not vanished because she was evil. That matters. 6 days later, a private investigator named Paula Reyes found her at a budget motel near Abercorn Street in Savannah, registered under the name Claire Vance, which is the kind of alias people choose when they have watched too many television shows and not enough court hearings. Paula was former Franklin County Sheriff's Office, 5'3", silver hair, no patience for nonsense, and the only person I have ever met who could make a hotel lobby feel like an interrogation room without raising her voice. Clara broke in 14 minutes. She had met Corinne through a temp agency assignment at a legal records office. She was behind on rent, caring for a brother with medical bills, and desperate enough to believe a polished woman who said she needed help exposing insurance fraud. Corinne paid her $12, 000, upfront, and promised another $18, 000, after 60 days. Clara was told to leave Columbus, abandon her apartment, let a cousin file the missing person report, and wait for instructions. She did not understand the hidden room. She did not know my name until Paula showed her my photo. When Paula explained that I was being investigated for her disappearance, Clara put both hands over her mouth and started crying so hard the motel clerk came over pretending to check the vending machine. Clara signed a sworn statement. She gave Paula the prepaid phone Corinne had provided, the cash envelope, the written instructions, and the motel receipts. She had kept everything because frightened people keep objects. Objects feel like exits. Now I had something Corinne did not know existed, not a messy recording from my house. A living woman. A sworn statement, receipts, phone records, payment trails, a hole in the center of the lie. Still, I waited one more day. That sounds cruel. Maybe. It was not cruelty. It was precision. Corinne had spent years making sure I would move emotionally. I needed to move mechanically. On Friday night, she made roasted chicken and asked if I wanted extra gravy. I looked at her across the table and understood that she had probably made me hundreds of meals while moving pieces of my life into a trap. There is a level of betrayal so large it stops feeling personal and starts feeling like weather. You do not argue with a hurricane. You board up the windows and wait for the pressure to break. After dinner, while Corinne was in the sunroom drinking lemon tea, I sent a text from a prepaid number Ray bought in cash. No words, just 2 files. A photograph of Clara Voss, alive in Savannah, holding that morning's newspaper, and a picture of the written instructions with Corinne's handwriting visible. I watched the sunroom camera from the guest room. Corinne's phone lit up. She looked at it. She did not move for almost a full minute. That may not sound like much, unless you knew my wife. Corinne was motion disguised as a person. Straightening, folding, wiping, arranging. Stillness on her was as unnatural as smoke flowing downward. Then she stood, walked to the kitchen, opened a drawer, closed it, opened it again, and took out her car keys. I came downstairs as she reached the back door. Going somewhere, I asked. She turned with a face so calm it was almost insulting. Natalie forgot something at the hotel. Natalie is not at a hotel, I said. She drove back to Cincinnati this afternoon. There it was. A hairline crack. Tiny. Beautiful. Corinne blinked once. Owen. What is this? I held up my phone and played only 5 seconds of her own voice. Clara is fine. She is in Savannah until the end of April. She looked at the phone, then at me, and for the first time in 19 years, my wife did not know which version of herself to wear. You recorded me, she whispered. No, I said. I found her. That was the better sentence. Shorter, heavier, cleaner. Corinne's mouth opened, then closed. She did not deny. She did not cry. She recalculated, eyes turning toward exits that were already locked. Owen, she said softly, we need to talk before you do something that hurts both of us. Both of us? Even then, she wanted symmetry. Even then, she needed my damage to be shared property. I stepped aside from the door. Go upstairs, I said. Pack what you need for one night. Then sit in the living room and wait. For what? For the documents to make up their mind. At 8:12 the next morning, I walked into the Columbus Division of Police building with Dean Mercer, Paula Reyes, and a folder thick enough to change the temperature of a room. Detective Grace Holloway met us in a conference room that smelled like burnt coffee. I placed everything on the table, in order. Bank records, phone logs, office keycard proof, the Plumber timeline, the storage lease metadata, Clara's statement, motel receipts, the prepaid phone, the cash envelope, the handwriting comparison Dean arranged through a retired document examiner. Holloway read for a long time. She did not apologize. Good detectives do not apologize too early. They get quiet. Finally, she looked up and said, "Where is your wife right now?" "At home," I said. "Does she know you are here?" "Yes." Holloway studied me for a moment. Then she picked up the phone. Corinne was arrested at 1003 a.m. on a Saturday cold enough that the frost still clung to the porch rail. 2 officers walked her out of our brick house in handcuffs, while a neighbor across the street pretended to adjust his mailbox for 6 straight minutes. Corinne wore the camel coat I bought her for our anniversary. She had put on lipstick. That detail nearly made me laugh, because even at the end she wanted the scene lit properly. She looked back once as they guided her toward the cruiser. I expected hatred. I expected panic. I expected some final performance of betrayed innocence. Instead, she looked confused. Honestly confused. Not because she had been caught, but because I had not behaved according to the script she wrote. That was her real mistake. Corinne knew my calendar. She knew my passwords. She knew how I signed my name when I was rushed. She knew I left my phone on the nightstand, that I avoided conflict, that I believed quiet people were harmless because I was one of them. She knew my routines so well she mistook them for my limits. She never understood the difference between a gentleman and a weak one. The charges came in layers: fraud, identity misuse, obstruction, conspiracy tied to Clara's staged disappearance, financial theft connected to the accounts Dean uncovered. I will not pretend the legal process was clean or fast, but the story stopped being about whether Owen Whitaker had hidden a woman in his house and became what it should have been from the beginning: how Corinne Whitaker built a fake monster so nobody would notice the real one holding the thousand. Blueprint. Clara cooperated. Natalie tried to minimize what she knew, then changed her mind when her own messages were recovered. The plumber, Sol, gave a statement about the panel and the crying. My office provided the keycard logs. The storage facility produced timestamps. The fake account traced back through devices Corinne thought she had wiped. Careful people believe deletion is a broom. It is not. It is footprints in reverse. I sold the house 6 months later. People ask if that was hard. It was not. Once someone uses a house as a weapon, memory stops being sentimental and becomes evidence. I kept one thing from it, the brass key to the old back gate, because exits can be small and still save your life. I am 53 years old, and I no longer call myself lucky, but I am free. I still volunteer. I still believe people can be good. Though I no longer believe goodness, excuses, blindness. Somewhere Corinne Whitaker is learning a truth she never respected. A man does not need to shout to be dangerous. He does not need to slam doors, threaten revenge, or beg the world to believe him. Sometimes he only needs to become still enough to see the pattern, patient enough to follow it, and cold enough to let the evidence speak before his heart does. My wife spent 8 years studying my life like a map. She learned every road, every turn, every soft place. But she forgot that maps do not show weather. They do not show pressure. They do not show what happens inside a quiet man when the last warm thing in him finally freezes. She knew my habits. She knew my signature. She knew where I slept. She knew what I would forgive. She never knew what I would survive. If this story kept you listening, subscribe to Dad's Cold Justice and hit the like button before you go. Comment where you are watching from and what time it is in your city. Sometimes a subscribe may feel like nothing to you, but it helps us keep bringing these real, rough, family-centered stories to the people who need them. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next story.